Hello class! This week we're starting a new chapter called Earth's Surface. Let's begin. Science in my world. Look at the photo of a polar ice cap. What is an ice cap made of? And what other questions do you have? So here is the picture of the polar ice cap. It's a bird's eye view. That means imagine you're a bird flying over and you're looking down. This is what you see. See the ice and the dark areas. What could the dark areas be? Perhaps water? And you have bits of ice here as well, the ice caps. So what questions might you have? Some questions I put down are, which country are they in? What would happen if the polar ice caps melted? Does the sun melt the ice there? And is it always cold there? Now let's look at some of the words that we're going to be going through in this chapter. We have continent, globe, map, river, freshwater, island, mountain, salt water, glacier, landform, ocean, and stream. Now this is Jin. Jin wants to be a paleontologist. A paleontologist studies life and fossils from long ago. Jin is looking at the polar ice cap and wondering how long it has been there and what it is made of. Think about the ways water exists on Earth. Where can we find water? And how do we use water? Draw or write what you think. So draw or write some things about where we find water, what types of water we have on Earth, and how we use the water. Mapping Earth's surface. So circle the things that you might see on a map of Earth's surface. So if you look at the surface, the top of the Earth, what could you see? Would you see the hills? Yeah, you could. Would you see rainfall on the surface of the land? No. Rainfall would be on top, above. So what else would you see on the surface? Mountains? Yes. So far we have hills, mountains. Temperature? No, that's not something you can see. Valleys? Yes. Animals? Yes. Rivers? Yes. Plains? Yes. The plain is the land on the Earth's surface. Wind? Nope, you can't see the wind. People? Yes, you would see the people. Lakes? Yes. And trees? Yes. So explain your thinking. Well, these are things that you can see because some things you cannot see, like temperature. Temperature is how hot or cold something is, and we cannot see it with our eyes. You would see the people and the animals because they live there on the surface, but they don't make up the surface of the Earth itself. Look at the photo of the land. What do you notice about how it is shaped? And what questions do you have? So what do you notice about how it is shaped? Well, it is surrounded by water. That means there's water all around, and that means it is an island. Anything that is surrounded by water, that has water all around, is an island. And it also has lots of trees and bushes or greenery and probably sand. And what are these? These big pieces that pop up could be giant hills or mountains or maybe even volcanoes. So maybe that's a question we have. What are these big structures? What are these big parts? As an ocean engineer, I have studied the water around an island. So I'm excited to now investigate the land with you.
Earth's surface. Earth, a place of many landforms. Earth has many different forms of land and water. A landform is one of the shapes of Earth's land. The biggest areas of land are called continents. Continents are surrounded by water. A map shows where landforms and water are found. Maps are flat, but they show land that is high and land that is low. A continent is a large area of land. Most of Earth's water is in oceans. This map shows different landforms.
So a landform is one of the shapes of Earth's land. And the biggest shape or biggest area of land is called a continent. And a map shows where landforms and water are found. So a map shows us where the land is and where the water is.
Mountains, hills, and valleys. The tallest kind of landform on Earth is a mountain. A mountain often has steep sides and a pointed top. Hills are mounds of land and rock. They are tall, too, but they are not as tall as mountains. A valley is the lowland between two mountains or two hills. A valley can be deep and narrow or long and wide. This mountain is very tall. This hill is not as tall as the mountain. This valley is long and wide. This valley is deep and narrow.
So a mountain would be the highest or the biggest landform, the tallest type on Earth. And hills are also parts of the land that pop up, but not as much, they're not as tall as mountains. And a valley is the space in between. So something like this, sort of like the U or the V shape between two mountains or two hills. So here's a valley over here.
Plains. Many people live in valleys. Often, rivers flow there and provide fresh water. Other people live in a landform called a plain. A plain is land that is wide and flat. It has no hills or mountains. A plain can be a good place for farms. Plains can stretch for miles. This plain is used for farming. Plains are very flat.
So a plain is just a wide, flat piece of land.
Flowers grow in this plain. There are many plains in the middle of the United States. Islands. An island is land with water all around it. Islands can be small or large. They can be in a river or in a lake. They can be in an ocean. Islands can be flat or they can have mountains. Some islands have hills, valleys, and plains. Often, many islands appear close together in a chain. Islands are surrounded by water. Islands can have different landforms. Some islands are close to each other. Many landforms, many maps. With so many different landforms on Earth, maps are very helpful. A map can show the shapes and kinds of land and water in an area. Some maps show large areas. A map of a town shows a smaller area. You can even make a map of your neighborhood to show where its different types of land and water are found. This map shows all 7 continents on Earth. This map shows landforms and water in Africa. This map shows the landforms and water in Mexico.
So how can you show different types of land shapes? This is an inquiry activity, an activity that you can do, making a model of land and water. What can you use to make a model of land and water? So we could use modeling clay, a tray, and a cup of water. Mold the modeling clay in a land shape you are familiar with. Put the clay land shape into the tray and then pour water around the clay shape. So if you wanted to say make a piece of land that looks like the US and you know what the US looks like, or maybe India or Australia, you can try to shape your molding clay into that shape and then put it on the tray and put water around it so it looks like the ocean is around that continent, that large piece of land. Draw and label a picture of your model. Does your model compare to your classmates' models? Is yours bigger? Is it higher? Is it lower? Look at your prediction. Were you able to make a model of land and water? Here are some of the vocabulary words we have. So look at this picture here. It shows an island, which is a piece of land that is surrounded by water. And in the background we have a mountain because it's very, very tall. And we have a valley over here. It's the space between two mountains. And we have a hill or a mountain over here.
Landform. One of the different shapes of Earth's surface. Mountain. land that is very high. Continent, a large area of land on Earth. Island, an area of land surrounded by water. Hill, a raised area of land smaller than a mountain. Map, a picture or drawing that shows an area from above. Plain, flat land that spreads out over a large area. Valley, the low land between mountains.
After reading those, let's take a look at some of these words. Continent. So let's match continent with its definition. Is continent an area of land surrounded by water? Is it a great area of land on Earth? Or is it land that is very high? So continents don't have to be very high, and it doesn't have to be surrounded by water necessarily. It is a great area of land on Earth. So continent is a great area of land on Earth. An island, we said, is an area of land surrounded by water. And so a mountain is land that is very high. Now let's name the 7 continents on Earth. Let's look at a picture to help us visualize it. We have North America, which has Canada, North America, Greenland. We have South America, which has Brazil, Peru. We have Antarctica, Australia, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Asia, the North and the South poles. The many different shapes of Earth's surface are called landforms. Draw pictures showing the landforms you learned about and label each landform. So I'll remind you of a couple. We have plains. Plains are just flat, wide pieces of land. We have mountains. Mountains are the very highest, tallest parts that pop up on Earth. We have hills that are like mountains, but they can be smaller. We have islands, which is land surrounded by water, and so on. Watch landforms on ways to describe land, and then answer the questions after you have finished watching. Use descriptive words that you learned in the video to add labels to your pictures of landforms on page 107. So they want you to use some of the words to describe the landforms that you drew here. And then circle the statement that is true and put an X over the statement that is false. A hill is a raised area of land that is larger than a mountain. False. We said mountains are the largest and the tallest raised area of land. A hill is a raised area of land that is smaller than a mountain. That is true. We said hills are smaller and mountains are larger. So pick one of the landforms. So you can pick either a plain, an island, mountain, hill, continent, and describe that landform. So if you said continent, you would describe it as the largest area of land. A mountain would be the tallest raised area of land. Hill is a raised area of land that is tall but not as tall as a mountain. An island is something surrounded by water, is a land surrounded by water on all sides. And this can be in an ocean or in a river or in a pond. And a plain is a wide, flat area of land. And then where is that landform found in the world? So where could you find your mountain or hill or island or plain? List 2 other facts you learned about landforms. So try to remember, recall, or rewind this video and see what other facts we know about landforms. And draw and label a picture of the landform. Here's a research, investigate, and communicate activity. Create a model of a map. So you will need clay, cardboard, and a world map. What questions could you answer using your map? Look at the world map and use it to create a relief map, which is a map that shows landforms. Lay the cardboard on a desk or table. On the cardboard, sketch the outline of the continents that you see in the world map. So basically you're going to draw the continents, draw the pieces of land on the cardboard, and then use clay to create each of the continents and place them on your map. Then use sources to find 2 interesting landforms and list them here. Add them to the map. So if you see any famous mountains or any famous hills or valleys, you can write them here and you can try to include them in your model of the map. Earth's water. 3 friends are wondering where most of Earth's water is found. Which friend has the best idea? So one friend says, I think most of Earth's water is in lakes. The other one says, I think most of Earth's water is in oceans. And the other one says, I think most of Earth's water is in rivers. Who do you think is right? Well, if you look at a picture of the Earth, a map, you'll see that most of the water seems to be in the oceans. So Lanying might have the best idea about where most of Earth's water is. Look at the photo of Earth. What do you notice about the different colors and shapes you see? What questions do you have? Well, you've all seen a picture of Earth, and we've seen that this part is blue, and then this is usually green or brown, depending on how much greenery or desert there is on the land, on the continents. So what questions might you have? Maybe, is there more water than land? What are the different oceans called? Do some parts of the land have more mountains than others? Or more valleys? Earth's surface. How can you use a map, a world map, to study Earth's surface? What is Earth's surface made of? Do you think it's mostly made of land or water? So for this experiment, you'll need a copy of a map of the world with grid lines. So that means the lines that go across. Green and blue crayons or colored pencils. So color the squares on the map. If the square is on a continent or land, color it green. But if the square is mostly on other areas, color it blue. And then count the number of green squares and count the number of blue squares and record your results here. So basically you would have a picture like this, or like this, a picture of the Earth. And you would have it with grid lines. So you would have lines that are going down and lines that are going across to make lots of little boxes all over. And then you would color the boxes blue if it's on the water, or green if it's on land. And if half of it or most of it is on the water, a little bit of land is in it, then you would color it blue because most of it is water. If most of it is on land and you have a little bit of blue in it, color it green because most of it is land. And at the end, we're going to have a picture full of green and blue boxes, and we color the green, we count the greens and we count the blues. We're going to find out if there's more water or more land on Earth. So you'll put the number of green squares here and the number of blue squares here. Maybe you'll have 20 and 25. Do you have more green squares or blue squares on your map? The green squares show where land is on the map. What do you think the blue squares show? So if the green shows the land, the blue will show the water. mostly from the oceans. What do your results tell about the surface of Earth? So your results will tell you that there might be more water on Earth than there is land. These are some of the words we're going to be looking through: globe, ocean, symbol, saltwater, and direction. Let's read Maps Show Earth's Features. Maps show Earth's features. A globe is a map of Earth. It is in the shape of a sphere. So we said a map is a flat picture that shows where the continents and where the land and the water is. A globe is the same thing, except it's in a sphere, so that means it's round, it's in a ball. A map can also be flat. Maps show where land, water, and other features are located. So here is a map. So A, globe, is a sphere-shaped map. Maps may use A to represent the features of an area. So they might use a symbol. A symbol can be something like a small picture that represents a feature. North, south, east, and west are examples of direction. Explore the digital interactive "Where is most of Earth's water?" on Earth's oceans, and answer the questions after you've finished.
Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on Earth. It covers around 30% of Earth's surface. Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is the second largest ocean on Earth. It covers around 20% of Earth's surface. Southern Ocean. The Southern Ocean is located around the South Pole across the Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere off Antarctica. It is home to the emperor penguin. Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean is located around the North Pole across the Arctic Circle. Many polar bears live on the thick top layer of ice on the ocean. Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is located between Africa and Oceania. It is the largest area in the world for breeding of humpback whales.
So now that we watched Explore the Digital Interactive "Where is most of Earth's water?" on Earth's oceans, we can answer the following questions. List Earth's 5 oceans. So we said there was the Arctic Ocean, that was up north, the Atlantic Ocean, which was in between the US and Europe, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Southern Ocean, which is also called the Antarctic Ocean. Watch Ocean Technology on how scientists study the ocean floor, and then answer the questions once you have finished.
One of my favorite things is submersibles. Check this one out.
What's a submersible?
They are a type of underwater submarine that does research on the ocean floor.
Wow, that is cool.
One of the most impressive submersibles is the Illuminaut. It is able to operate at 4,572 meters, or 15,000 feet deep in the ocean, so it explores lower than a diver can swim. And check this out. Here is another cool submersible, the Alvin. It is only capable of diving to depths of 3,960 meters, or 13,000 feet with a crew of 3, but is equipped with mechanical arms to pick things up. It even picked up stuff from shipwrecks.
Mechanical arms are super cool.
You need a submersible to reach the Marianas Trench. It is the deepest part of the ocean floor. The Deep Sea Challenger descended to over 10,911 meters, or 35,798 feet deep to explore it.
One of my favorite things is satellites. Check this one out.
That is awesome. What do they do?
Instead of being deep in the water, they explore the Earth from high up in space. Here is a fixed satellite. A fixed satellite handles billions of voice, data, and video transmissions around the world. Look at this. A mobile satellite system connects ships or planes with signals from space by using GPS signals so they don't get lost on Earth.
Wow.
Yep, satellites capture images and meteorological or weather data as well. You know, I bet you can see the Marianas Trench at the bottom of the ocean using land survey images from a scientific research satellite.
Thanks for sharing your favorite satellites with me.
You're welcome. And thanks for sharing your submersibles with me.
So how does a submersible help scientists study the ocean? A submersible is a type of submarine that does research of the Earth from deep under the ocean, from the ocean floors. Where are the satellites that scientists use to study the ocean? Satellites are structures or machines that are up in space. You will research where an ocean is located and 5 facts about the ocean. What question will your research help to answer? Which ocean did you choose to research? So remember, there are 5 oceans to choose from. Where is the ocean located? So next to which continents? List 5 other facts you learned about your ocean. So maybe how large it is, what type of animals live in it, how deep it gets. What does the ocean you researched have in common with a classmate's ocean? So here's a performance task, labeling Earth's oceans. You will use a blank world map and label Earth's oceans, so the 5 oceans. Write a question that you think your map could answer. It might answer where the oceans are located, how big each ocean is, etc. Look at a map of the world and review the names of the oceans. Use crayons or colored pencils on the map to show what is land and what is water. Label the map with the name of Earth with each ocean. Label the map with the name of each ocean. So here's the map that we have, and you can label each ocean. Remember, there's an ocean here, there's one here, here, on top, maybe one at the bottom, and this is a continuation of this ocean. So put the labels down. Here's a reminder of the oceans. You have the Pacific Ocean, which is also over here, a continuation. You have the Arctic Ocean, the Southern Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. So think about the photo of Earth at the beginning of the lesson and use what you have learned to describe Earth's surface and where you can find Earth's oceans. So we could tell from the map, from the picture of the Earth, that most of Earth's surface is covered with water, which is the ocean, and the oceans surround all of the continents. So oceans make up more of the Earth than land. So we said Earth's surface has many landforms. Hills, mountains, valleys. Earth's oceans are on the surface of the Earth, between continents. Fresh water. Let's circle all of the places where you can find fresh water. Ponds would be one. Rivers. Seas would not be one because it has salt water. Oceans also have salt water. So far we have ponds, rivers, streams, lakes, brooks, because it's a small river, so it would also have fresh water, and puddles after it rains. It wouldn't be clean water, but it would be fresh water, so it would not be salty. Watch the video of the waterfall. Where would you find water like this, and what questions do you have? So where would you find water like this? It would be fresh water, so you wouldn't find it in the oceans or in the seas, but you could find it in places that have lots of mountains, and lots of rivers, maybe even huge lakes. What questions do you have? You might ask, which countries could we find these waterfalls in? As an ocean engineer, I study the oceans. I'm excited for the chance to explore freshwater on Earth.
Water on Earth. Water and land. Remember that Earth has many different forms of land. It also has many forms of water. If you think about a sandwich cut into 4 pieces, 3 pieces show about how much water is on Earth. Only 1 piece shows how much land is on Earth. Almost all of that water is held in the oceans. The blue parts show how much water is on Earth. Most of Earth is covered with water. Earth's salt water. Most of the water on Earth is salt water. Oceans hold almost all of Earth's salt water. An ocean is a large, deep body of salty water. Many living things depend on the ocean and need salt water to stay alive, but humans need fresh water to live. We use oceans for transportation. Large ships carry packages across the ocean. People can explore the ocean by scuba diving. Earth's fresh water. Water that is not salty is called fresh water. You can find fresh water in lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams. A lake is a body of water that has land all around it. Ponds also have land all around them, but they are smaller than lakes. A river is a body of fresh water that flows or moves. Water also flows in a stream, but a stream is smaller than a river. We use fresh water sources for bathing, drinking, and cleaning. Rivers and lakes are large bodies of water. Ponds and streams are small bodies of fresh water. Liquid and solid forms of water. A liquid is matter that takes the shape of the container it is in. Oceans, rivers, lakes, ponds, and streams are all liquid forms of water. They are shaped by the places that hold them. Water in a pond is a liquid. However, much of Earth's fresh water is in a frozen solid state as ice. A solid is matter that has a shape of its own. This frozen fresh water can be found in glaciers, or large sheets of ice that flow slowly across the land. Water in a glacier is a solid. Water on the move. It might seem like Earth's water stays where it is, but it is often moving and changing form. When rainwater falls, much of that fresh water goes underground where it is stored. Some of it goes into rivers that flow to other bodies of water. Water on Earth is always on the move. Rivers move water into lakes and oceans.
How does fresh water change in different locations and at different temperatures? What will happen as fresh water moves down a mountain? Investigate changes in fresh water by conducting the simulation. Answer the questions when you have finished. Observe how the water flows down the mountain when you first open the simulation. Use the slider on the right side to make the mountain scene hotter or colder, and record the data from your observations table. Water in streams, pools, lakes, and rivers is fresh water. This water may be liquid or solid, ice or snow. Use the slider to make the scene hotter or colder and see the changes at each location. So if we're making the water hotter, let's see what happens. The temperature has increased for all of them. So this goes from -3 to 8. This goes from 5 to 13, and this goes from 9 to 19. So see how the ice or the glacier, the solid over here, has disappeared when it gets hotter? It's melted down and it comes into the river. Now what happens when it gets colder? all of it becomes ice and all the temperatures decrease. That means they get colder. So when it is hotter, there is more water and less ice, less solid ice. And when it is colder, there's more ice and less water. And the temperatures, of course, are colder. So what happens to the water as the temperature gets warmer? When the temperature gets warmer, the water temperature also gets warmer and all becomes liquid. Because we've seen that the glacier disappears and becomes liquid, part of the river. How does the temperature affect the movement of fresh water? When it is colder, there is less water flowing, and when it is hotter, there is more water in the rivers, and the temperature increases. Which means there is more water. Water flowing. Let's look at these vocabulary words. Freshwater, lake, stream, pond, river, and glacier. And we read a little bit about them, so let's see if we can answer these questions. What is a stream? A stream is a flowing body of water that is smaller than a river. So a river is a body of water that flows. A lake is a small body of fresh water that does not flow. So it does not move, it stays where it is. And a pond is the same as a lake, but smaller. A pond is a flowing body of water that is smaller than a river. Oceans have what type of water? Fresh water or salt water? Salt water, while lakes and ponds have fresh water. Fresh water means water that is not salty. Most of Earth's fresh water is frozen in glaciers. Name 3 ways that people use fresh water. For showers, to brush their teeth, watch fresh water on many sources and uses of fresh water, and then answer the questions after you've finished watching.
Living things need water to survive. Animals, including humans, need fresh water to drink. Plants use water to make their own food and to stay healthy. Fresh water is water that is not salty. It is found in ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, and glaciers. What are some characteristics of each of these freshwater sources? A pond is a small body of fresh water that does not flow. A lake is also a body of fresh water that does not flow. A lake is usually deeper and wider than a pond. Streams and rivers are bodies of fresh water that flow. Streams are smaller bodies of water that flow into rivers. Rivers are usually much wider and deeper than streams, and the water from rivers eventually flows into oceans. Glaciers also hold a lot of Earth's fresh water. Glaciers are big masses of ice that form when snow falls and doesn't completely melt during the summer. When more snow falls and builds up over time, the snow becomes very heavy and turns to ice. This ice moves like a very slow, frozen river. The water cycle affects these freshwater sources. What is the water cycle? Well, when water evaporates from ponds, lakes, streams, and rivers, it rises into the air. Once the air cools, the water condenses and forms clouds and falls as precipitation. Precipitation can fall as rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Over time, rain and melted snow flow back to the lakes and rivers. All over Earth, water is always moving through the water cycle. Seasonal changes also affect freshwater sources. In the spring, when the temperature gets warmer, snow begins to melt. Melted snow forms streams that flow into rivers, and the water levels rise. Many places also get a lot of rain in the spring. When it rains, pond and lake levels rise. Glaciers are also affected by seasonal change. If temperatures get too warm, glaciers slowly begin to melt. All of Earth's freshwater sources have different characteristics and are all affected by the water cycle and seasonal changes.
So which two water sources do not flow? We said ponds and a bigger version of ponds, which is lakes. Lakes, remember, are wider and deeper. Make a model of a glacier. You will make a model to see how fresh water is trapped in ice and how it can begin to melt and move. Make a prediction. What will happen as the glacier begins to melt? You'll need a bowl, small rocks, shaved ice, water, freezer, and a tray. So put a small layer of rocks in the bowl, then put a layer of shaved ice on top of the rocks. Repeat steps 1 and 2 until the bowl is full. So you're going to have layers of rocks, shaved ice, rocks, and shaved ice. Carefully pour a small amount of water in the bowl, but do not fill it to the top. Put the bowl in the freezer until the water freezes. Then take the model out of the bowl and place it upside down inside the tray. So what happened as the glacier started to melt? Push the model with your finger. What happens? What happens if the glacier doesn't melt? Let's recap with some of our vocabulary words.
Fresh water can be found on Earth in many forms. A stream consists of fresh water. A stream is a flowing body of water that is smaller than a river. Here is a larger body of fresh water. This is a lake. A lake is a body of fresh water that has land all around it. Another body of fresh water is a pond. A pond is a small body of fresh water that does not flow. Some fresh water is frozen. This frozen fresh water can be found in glaciers. A glacier is a large sheet of ice that flows slowly across the land.
So what happened as the glacier started to melt? The rocks fell to the bottom of the tray and the ice turned to water. And the water level rises. Push the model with your finger. What happens? The glacier moves around even when you stop touching it because it's now floating in water. What happens if a glacier doesn't melt? The water stays frozen in the glacier and does not move. So the whole glacier does not move. So we learned about glaciers, salt and fresh water.